It's from the moment I wake up to like the moment I go to sleep, my brain has like a whole bunch of different like it's like nonstop repetitive like nonstop ideas. Like
Yeah.
I just get I wake up and I get caught up in like some sort of other vision, and then like I'm like shit, like I wish I could do that, So I was just like, I like this one, I want to stick to that. I want to stick to that idea and see it come out.
All right. What's good? Thank you for tuning into this. This is the official first ever episode of my new podcast that I'm calling the Gascast. A podcast is something that I've wanted to do for a while. I've even attempted it a few times over the past couple years, but never took it all that serious, or was just ready to make the commitment of recording. And also, I don't know, the times that I tried it, I wasn't having that much fun with it, and I think that's what kept me from keep continuing to go with it. But on a not so much a whim, but on a decision to make more content all around, me and my buddy Adrian, who is actually my guest on this episode, we decided we were just going to make a whole slew of content, because we hadn't really been doing anything up until that point on our own social medias. I mean, I've been posting pictures on my Instagram, but that was about it. And so we decided, like, let's take this serious. Let's make this a part of our work that we do on a normal basis and create a lot of content. And a podcast was the first thing that popped into my head as the thing that I wanted to try. There was some other things that I was thinking about, like vlogs and other types of videos, and along with, I'm still going to be posting pictures on Instagram and all that, but just taking the whole content distribution thing a whole lot more serious. And so I had most of the equipment already for a podcast. I mean, camera and lighting, I basically already had. A couple small accessories that I had to buy, but other than that, it was just the microphones, and we're off and running. And from the jump, it was just so much fun. I can't really explain the difference between doing it now and the past times that I have attempted it, but I've been having a blast. At the time that I'm recording this intro, I've done 3 podcasts, and each one is just, it's been more fun and more fun each time I do it. And I like the editing process. I like everything about it. I've been pretty obsessed with it over the past couple of days. It's all I've been wanting to do. I haven't been doing other work. I haven't been making any money because I've just been so obsessed with doing this, and I've just kind of been embracing that. I was like, I just want to do this podcast well. And yeah, I've just been embracing that and doing it. And so I'm happy that was the feeling and the outcome so quickly from starting it, was that I like doing it. So I hope that shows in the episodes, because the number one thing that I consciously decided going into this venture of creating a podcast and a video podcast and all that, is that I'm not going to worry as much about the aesthetics as I am about the actual content, because that's something that I've done in the past a lot across all my work, is getting too obsessed with the outside and how it looks, and not being as focused on the content itself. And I don't think that's, aesthetics are important. Good video quality is important. Good audio is important. But if it sucks, it sucks. And you can't, making something 4K isn't going to fix something that's garbage, So, and I think that just kind of freed up some of the guards that I had up with creating content about trying to make it perfect and look perfect and sound perfect, and just being like, let's just fucking have fun with this thing and make something cool that I would enjoy listening to. And it's been going good, and it's in a way it's almost been I've already learned shit about myself from doing these. I mean, it's kind of just an audio journal recording these types of things. You know, I come to ideas that I may have not have come to during the day and stuff like that, and kind of work through things on mic. So it's cool. I'm pretty stoked about it. So however you're watching or listening to this, there's a video cast that will be on YouTube and IGTV. Hopefully, I'm still working out the kinks with exporting and all that stuff. Fucking last night, I was like, okay, I'm gonna export one of the episodes overnight, and it was at like 17% by the time I woke up, and it still had like 16 hours to go. And I was like, well, that's not gonna work. So I'm still figuring it out, how exactly to export efficiently and working out the technical kinks and all that. My plan is video casts on YouTube and IGTV, and then audio casts on the podcast app and possibly SoundCloud. But we'll see how it goes. And so I'll give another update in a later episode about all the places you can find the episode. For the audio versions, I'm going to include music, because I fuck with music way too much to not include it in my content. And, you know, you're not always able to put music in stuff, like especially things that go on YouTube. They crack down pretty hard on anything that they could flag for copyright infringement. And it's just not a road that's smart to go down on YouTube. But on the podcast app, it's a lot easier to do. And I want to do it. I want to include music, so it'll be there. And if you hear something and you're like, oh, what's that song? The song information, along with anything else that's applicable to the podcast, it's like bonus features in essence, like articles. Like for this episode, we talk about the app that we've been building over the past couple of years. And I'm going to include some sketches, some of our first sketches and designs and stuff like that. Just for the sake of, I think it's a cool little time capsule of like where we've been and where we're at now. So if you want to see that or get info about any of the songs, all that stuff is going to be on my website. It's donaldfrias.com, and there's a little section for all the podcasts. And then each podcast is almost going to have a blog post where you can find all that info. And then you could even download the MP3 if that's what you want to do. But I doubt most people do that. Like, I don't do that when I listen to podcasts. I just listen to it right on the platform, so I don't got to like take up storage, you know. But bonus features and all that good stuff on the website. This episode I just mentioned is with Adrian Ceron. I've known him for a long time. He's also my business partner when it comes to Ceron, which is an events app that we're building. We get into the origins of the app, when I first came along, how he originally came up with the idea, all the stuff that we've learned and been through along the way. Kind of just give a brief overview of our past 2 years in pursuing a venture. It's been cool. We touch a little bit on raising funds, but more on the personal side. It's not a technical episode, you know. It's not about. We don't really get into the technicality and our strategy so much. We're more talking about, you know, our own personal growth through the whole thing. And if we were to start all over today on a different venture, like what would we do different and stuff like that. And so it's just a good, honest conversation about the journey of trying to create something and put it out from scratch. So it's cool. And that's kind of what I want the vibe of these podcasts to be, is just an honest discussion. And you know, whoever my guest is and whatever the topic is, I just want it to be honest and genuine. And I think that's cool. I think it has a lot of potential for specifically, I mean, for me and Adrian trying to build a business. I don't know, I think it's just dope to document. You know what I mean? Regardless of what happens in the future, I think it'll just be cool to look back on what what we were learning at different times of the stage of trying to release an app and build an application, and looking at in the future, and even learning from the process of recording this by looking back on it. So it's dope. I'm really into the idea of documenting things like this and saving them. So it should be cool. I think the format, anything is up for grabs as to me changing the format of this show. I mean, this is the first episode that I'm going to release, even though I've recorded a few already. And maybe I won't even do intros in the future if I feel like it's taking away from the content. I'm also doing outros and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm experimenting. I'm spitballing, and I'm just gonna do what feels right. If you have feedback, I'd love to hear it. I mean, this is one of the first things in a long time that, content-wise, something that I'm consistently putting out that I'm just super excited about and want it to just be as good as possible. I don't always ask for critique on the stuff that I put out. I'm not always asking for critique on pictures and stuff like that, but this thing, I don't know, I've been showing it to a lot of people, and I just want opinions on it because I want it to rapidly get better as I go along, and it has. I mean, from the first episode that I recorded solo to where I'm at now, it's a world of difference in quality of the content. It took a minute for me to get comfortable on mic and on camera, and I'm still a little hesitant when I first hit record, but I'm getting better, and I'm getting more comfortable, and it's getting better. And so if there's anything that you see or want to say, I'd love to hear it. My Instagram, it's where I post all my photos. It's at callmedonnie, _ callmedonnie on Twitter. And then my website, as I mentioned, is donaldfrias.com. On my website, I have 2 photo books that I've released over the past few years, and they're both free. So if you want one, you can check it out on my website or just DM me on Instagram, and then I'll dish it out for free. If you go through my website, it costs $3 to ship anywhere in the US. If you DM me on Instagram, I'll fucking cover that and just ship it. So I just want people to see it. I just want to put it out and for it to see, and for as many eyes to see it as possible. So if you're interested in any of those things, go snag a free copy. I think that's everything I got to say in this intro. So enjoy the episode. This is the first episode of the Gascast with Adrian Ceron.
I was like, just give people some sort of information that, like,
go ahead.
That they'd have to find out for themselves, almost. Like, how do I explain it?
What do you mean?
Like, I feel like the reason why that your last podcast would be so cool is because you have somebody who's like actually like went and got that experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like if you're gonna be doing something about yourself, or we're gonna do it too, like we gotta speak more about like our experience as opposed to like ideas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I feel you.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like then it'll be more of like it'll just be a better. It'll be more. You get more out of it. You know what I mean?
I mean, one of my inspirations, I would say, in like podcasting is Ari Shaffir. And on his podcast, he always talks about how he refers to them as an expert. And he actually defines expert. He's like, all I want is just somebody who has been in, like, has firsthand experience with whatever we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's even like, I don't know, I kind of value that stuff more when I'm talking to people than necessarily somebody who studies it. It's like, tell me what it's really like. You know what I mean? Rather than opposed to telling me what somebody else wrote about it.
Yeah, I feel like that a lot. And I really don't tend to trust people a lot who come to me with a lot of ideas. You know what I mean? They'll come to me telling me that I should do this and I should do that and I should do this and I should do that, when it's like, it might not work for me.
Yeah.
Like, it might just not work for me. Like, it'll work for other people. It'll probably work for a majority of people, but it might not work for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I generally don't trust anybody telling me that I should do anything. It's like, oh, you're telling me I should do this? It's like already skeptical as fuck.
Just because you don't feel like you should listen to somebody who's telling you to do it.
I don't know. I hate shit that everybody likes. Like, if there's a wave of something, I'm fucking skeptical of it.
That's probably your personality type.
Maybe.
You're a debater, right?
According to that one test that we
test.
took, I know that's not a universal term though. Like, I know in our other personality tests, like, debater's not always
A term.
a result. Yeah, but I feel what you're saying, because generally I am skeptical of everything, and so especially if, yeah, I feel what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. Are we rolling already?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel. For sure.
Okay, so let's just talk about the origins of Seam. Okay, I'm kind of curious. I don't know. I know the first time you told me about it, I remember like where we were and what you were telling me about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I know like where you first thought about it. I mean, you want to even go back that far and start there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, because I feel like from conception to now, I feel like if I knew certain things that I know now, I would have speeded up the process a lot faster.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like I probably could have done the same. I probably could have done everything in 6 months. That's just kind of how I feel. Like, I could have proceeded that along if I knew what I knew now. But that's the problem, right? You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
No, when I first came up with Seam, I think I was a little bit of a hater myself. Like, kind of how you say that, like, you don't like things when they come out. You don't like waves when they come out. And I was never a fan of social media. That was just not something that I was a fan of. Like, I remember one time my friend, he like put me on his, he like shouted me out on his page. It was Marco. He shouted me out on his page and,
on what platform?
on Instagram. And I remember getting a bunch of followers and then being like, it's just people from my school, obviously, right? But I had never made an effort to go and get followers. Like, I had never thought that was something that you should do. It just felt like a waste of my time. So I was actually in class, and it was a class prompt. It was
at ELAC?
Yeah, it was a class prompt at ELAC. It was, I think it was something along the lines of use technology to solve a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually a group project. It was a group setting, but nobody contributed to anything. And like everybody at the end said that they didn't contribute anything. And
to your group?
Yeah. Cause it's ELAC, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like an improviser when it like kind of at heart, you know,
Yeah, for sure. I feel you.
The way that it works with me is like, if it just comes to me and it works, then like, cool. You know what I mean? So I could be in class and an assignment is due that day, and like, I just get a spurt of energy and then I'll finish it in class and turn it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was that type of person. But when I was in class, I remember just thinking that I had found this in my own life. I was like, there's nothing that like I could find out what's going on in LA. And this was always a question that I had personally. Like, I knew that I had that issue, but I didn't know if other people had that issue. So when I was in that group setting,
of being able to find shit to do.
Yeah. When I was in that group setting, I just proposed the question to them. I was like, what's going on around you? Like right now, can you tell me what's going on around you? And most of the people that were there were just like, well, I mean, everybody that was there said no, that they couldn't, you know? And so we had came up with this idea. I was like, all right, well, I think there needs to be a platform specifically for that, but something that's in person, not something that is just like a platform of images or, you know, small text bodies. And eventually I just came up with SEAM. I was just thinking of things and thought of SEAM. And I thought of the acronym, Social Events Around Me. And then that's kind of where it just came from. And then from there, I was like, I actually like this. I was like, I personally like it. And that's what led me to, after that, just continue with that, because shortly after that class, I think that was the last class that I took, and then I dropped out.
Yeah, what I was gonna ask. Okay, how long did you go to ELAC?
I went to ELAC for like a year and a half.
And right out of high school.
Right out of high school. I didn't do too well in high school. I mean, I was in like AP classes.
Yeah, you used to take AP shit and like a bunch of extracurricular shit, right?
Yeah, I used to do all that stuff, but you know, I don't know. You just fuck up, like everybody. You know, you just fuck up, and you don't. Especially when you feel like you got it down. Like I said, like I'm an improviser, like, or I feel like I could get something done in a really quick amount of time. Like I would procrastinate like that. So eventually I would just be failing classes, but like I was obviously smart enough to be in those classes. I never failed an AP test though. I always got like 4s or 5s, so I was straight.
Didn't you kind of get pressure to like focus more on school stuff instead of sports, which kind of led you to not be as driven at school?
Yeah, that fucked me up for sure. Because I wanted to run for ASB president, and there was this other like Asian girl, because I went to predominantly Asian school, and I was the only like other like Mexican capable, I guess, that they saw that I could go and like, because I would hang out with Asians, and like they wanted me as president. They were like, they wanted me to do it, but I don't know. I got pressure from my parents and some of my teachers, and they were like, you shouldn't do that. Like, you can't handle it. You know what I mean? Like, you need to focus on your studies and get your shit together, or else you're not going to go to college. If I like had just not had that mindset, I probably would have done more and probably would have done better. But they did push me away from the things that I liked. Like when I got pushed away from the things that I liked, I no longer did well in the things that I should do well in.
Yeah.
And
you kind of just like lost motivation related to school because you just like felt like you should do it because you're supposed to do it instead of doing it along with the things that you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just, it was something that I knew I was never the type to just really like be super task oriented. Like there was a lot of kids at my school that were like really task oriented, and they were able to just look at something and like, okay, I'll just solve it. My issue was that I'd be like, well, why do I need that? Or like, why am I going to, like, how did they get to that problem? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I would try
a little more of like the debater attitude.
Yeah, I try to find the root of things too often. So when I would do that, it would lead me to just not paying attention to what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so you never get graded for those things, right? People don't grade you on, oh, well, how creative are you? Or like, why do you like want to focus on like the root of certain issues instead of just doing what you're supposed to do. It's always just do what you're supposed to do instead of like, how does your brain work? So like I was saying, I found that issue, and then I wasn't doing too well at ELAC either, partly because I went to that school and the classes were way lower than what I felt like were in high school. High school seemed to be so much like harder than ELAC. It was like a joke. You know what I mean? Like, I was just, like, it was a disbelief at how I felt like it was a joke.
Yeah.
That's how it felt, at least. I mean, and not knocking anybody that goes there or has gone to a community college. Like, there's just people that have different brains, you know? It just...
Yeah.
It didn't work for me. But shortly after I came up with that, I realized, like, I wanted to do that. I wanted to challenge myself to actually bring something that I have to fruition, you know? Because from the moment I wake up to, like, the moment I go to sleep, my brain has like a whole bunch of different, like, it's like nonstop repetitive, like nonstop ideas. Like,
yeah,
I just get, I wake up and I get caught up in like some sort of other vision. And then like, I'm like, shit, like I wish I could do that, you know? So I was just like, I like this one. I want to stick to that. I want to stick to that idea and see it come out. But yeah, it dropped out just because I was like, you know what, man, I don't really care. I don't really care if I'm stable or not. I just want to do something that I like.
Yeah.
And something that I want to actually see happen and like have an impact on other people, in whether it's a subtle way or not. I'm all about like human interaction, and I've always wanted people to just meet other like people that are like them, you know, or not like them. Just get them out into the real world, because if you're behind a computer screen, you're gonna regurgitate all the crap that you see. You're not gonna actually like grow and learn other things, you know?
Yeah.
So I wanted to connect people in that certain way, but that's how I first came to it. And then after that, shortly after, I feel like you came along pretty quickly after I dipped.
Well, I'm not sure. I think you first presented the idea to me. I don't remember how early it was before you dropped out. But I remember we were at your ex's crib and like all the homies were there and we were just chilling in the back and then you were showing me what you were working on. And at that time you were literally trying to code an H. Like you were trying to learn how to code like an H made out of vertical lines, and you were showing me like the process of what you were learning. And,
really?
and you were telling me, you're like, it's kind of funny because like it kind of relates into some of the conversations we have today. You're like, I wish I just had this fucking kid right here that I could say, I want, like, do it like this, this, and this, and then that person would know how to do it. But instead, I don't know how to fucking do anything. Yeah. And I was like, damn, I feel you. But the first time that I remember me and you, well, we started Havoc Addicts before I was officially a part of SEAM, and me and you used to always go to Cal State LA because I was going to school there, and like we'd go hit the fucking like library rooms where they had the four walls of whiteboard and just sketch on there. And the first time I, whether consciously or subconsciously, made the decision that I was gonna like invest in myself, we were at Cal State LA late at night and we were bumping music in one of the courtyards. Mm-hmm. And we were playing some live set of something. We were kind of into like EDM at that time. Uh-huh. And we were talking about throwing a concert.
Oh, I remember that.
And we were talking about having a stage on top of the administration building and putting lights inside of the administration building windows, and how we were going to fund it and like entry points. We literally dreamt up this whole festival in a couple hours of us just sitting at Cal State LA playing music and talking. And it was literally like the first time that I really like dreamt this whole thing and thought, okay, how could we execute this? And I was thinking about who could I talk to at Cal State LA? How could I get to the president? Like, I know the president. Like, how could I get him to help influence and okay this thing and safety and all this? And I had been saving money just my entire life with the intention of doing something with it. I just didn't know what yet. Mm. And then you came to me one day and you were trying to get a UX made. Mm-hmm. What was that fool's name?
Was it Paul?
No. Before that, the guy who was already made. I think
Julian.
You met him at Julian. He was gonna make you a UX.
Yeah.
For like 4K or something.
Yeah.
And you came asking for the ins for the UX, and I didn't know what a UX was. I thought you wanted 4K for an app, and in my head I was like, 4K for an app? Like, I don't know. That sounds pretty legit. And then we sat down and talked for a couple hours, and then I found out what you were getting was basically just a design. Uh-huh. I was like, Dick, I know how to use Illustrator. Mm-hmm. Like, why don't we just make this ourselves? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if like you were kind of like discouraged or not, but you seemed on board with the fact of like doing it, like us doing it. And that was in my head the first time that like we worked on it together, was with us starting to design it instead of paying somebody else to like make this UX.
Yeah. Like we could do it in house.
Yeah. And I was like super frustrated with school at that point. I don't know what year that was. I think 2015. Maybe early 2016 or late 2015, right around there, I think. Because I think I dropped out late 2016. But I was already really frustrated with school and like not enjoying it, but like there because partially I think for my parents, like I got a lot of pressure from my dad in particular to go to college because that's just what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also I didn't really know what I wanted to do, or like at the time it was just kind of like the best thing for me. And also my dad was paying for it because he worked there too, and like so he got half price. I was like, I feel like I should just go here. But I was already really pissed about college, and like we were already like coming up with short films about expressing these visions about, like I remember talking about how I felt in a bubble at college, and I was the only one who could see through this bullshit of like oh yeah, you need to study on this test to do this so you can go here and get a good job. Like I felt like I was getting preached at by every single teacher, and the final sentence of that whole preach every time was so you can go get a good job. And I was like, automatically doesn't make any sense to me because it's not what I want.
Yeah. You don't want just a job.
Yeah. And so at that point I was like, yeah, let's fucking do this.
Yeah, I feel that, man. I knew that I wasn't going to stop. I think that was the thing that, like, and if I could get if anybody wanted to do it as well, like, I was always open to that. Like, I always like pushing the boundaries with whoever wants to push them with me. That's just kind of how I feel. Like, I don't care if I'm the one that just does it on my own. Like, I don't care for that. I legitimately enjoy other people partaking in something, you know, if it's my idea or me partaking in somebody else's. I just like people that are just doing it on their own. You know what I mean? It kind of sucks. Like, it kind of sucks. I've heard Jordan Peterson talk about this when it comes to just like creativity in general. He's like, it's very hard to monetize. So like if you had like a really high IQ, right, and you were able to just do everything in college like exactly the way that they wanted you to do it, you'd probably be pretty successful just because you're able to do that. Yeah. He's like, but IQ and creativity are two separate things, but when creativity is just the harder one to monetize. It's super hard to monetize. You're going to be searching for a long time in order to get your creative like outlet to actually bring you something. And I kind of feel like that's how it is, at least now at this stage, is that we've worked kind of like since then, and we've learned a lot of things like raising money, dealing with developers, you know, getting it sent back to us, changing things in the platform ourselves. But all of those things have like contributed to now where it seems like a creative outlet is now able to get monetized. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never heard Jordan Peterson say that, but I've like off the jump what I think of it's that it's just hard to monetize things. And if you're trying to monetize something, it's obviously because you're trying to sell something yourself or sell something for somebody else, right? But like if I go work at my old job at the print shop, I don't got to worry about monetizing shit. I get paid no matter what. You know what exactly. I mean? And so like I don't have to, there's no three-dimensional thinking in terms of where the next customer is going to come from. It's just when that's the number one thing that I had to learn on my own when I was at Cal State LA is how do you like get people to know that you're there rather than just sit here fucking twiddling my thumbs until the work comes to you. But yeah,
like if I had any like advice to give people when it comes to like, I know people have their own ideas all the time, and entrepreneurship is a big thing that people want to do on their own.
It's kind of hot right now too. It's kind of like,
yeah, it's definitely hot right now because you could do it with the internet.
Yeah,
you know, I think that there's some people that obviously should be entrepreneurs, and there's some people that shouldn't be entrepreneurs, right? I don't know which category I fall into unless I'm successful in my endeavors, but I feel like I would tell people that if you're trying to do something just on your own, that you're going to encounter a lot of things in like your mentality that need to be changed first before you'll actually like succeed with whatever you're trying to push out, like the product. Yeah. You know, I feel like a lot of people search for the product really fast, and I feel like that could have been me as well, instead of searching for like, okay, well, what am I really trying to accomplish here? Like mentally, how am I going to go about this? Because it just makes the process so much faster if you actually go in with that mentality. You go in with the mentality of like knowing exactly how to execute things because you've actually worked it out in your own brain. Like you've actually matured in that way.
Yeah, I underestimated hugely just how important and the significance of your own mentality in general is on everything that you do. Because like I've worked cloudy because of a variety of different things, like relationships or struggles with money or because I'm sick or whatever those things, or if I'm just in a fucked up place because I haven't worked through some of my own personal shit, and thinking that, okay, I just need to put in the hours. It's completely different. Like, you can go, I in my old jobs, every single one of them, I could go to cloudy because I don't need to perform on a high mental scale. I just need to put in the hours. But on this stuff, it's like, if you're not clear and like ready and focused, you're running backwards because you're just wasting fucking time.
Yeah.
You're attempting to force, this work to be done, when in reality, the work to be done is away from your desk. It's like, it's time to put it. Maybe like the best thing to do in that time is like, okay, I need to go for a fucking walk and take a day off and figure my own shit out, so I'm able to tackle this shit. And like, it took me a long time to figure that out, for sure.
It definitely took me a long time to figure that out because my dad, he was a very
put your head down
and do exactly what you have to do, and that works for a certain type of job.
Yeah.
It works for a certain type of profession, but it doesn't work when you're trying to create something completely new, because the content and the actual product is coming from you. You know what I mean? Like, it took me a long time to realize that you haven't seen that movie, the Jobs movie, where he gets kicked off and then they're having that epic ass fucking meeting with the board of directors.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, like, we have all these experts on the Macintosh or whatever saying that. He's like, I'm the fucking expert.
I'm the evidence.
I'm the evidence.
Yeah.
I'm the one. And it's pretty, I still felt like when I watched that at first, I thought it was like very narcissistic and very like, oh yeah, dude, okay, like, you're the expert, you're failing right now, how are you the expert? You know what I mean? Somebody else probably has a better opinion than you. But it's kind of true. Whenever you're making your own product, you're the one that knows it best, so you have to take your own advice a lot more than you would think.
Yeah.
So if your advice is telling you, hey, like, I gotta step away, and maybe that's like contradictory to what other people would tell you, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to do that.
Yeah, because in my head, if you're working cloudy and like it's because of something that you need to address in your personal life, pushing through it will just be counterintuitive until you finally realize that you need to take a step back and address it. Like, you could spend 4 days trying to push through it and being extremely inefficient with your work, when the other option is take 1 day off and see if you can figure your own personal shit out. And then in the grand scheme of things, you were way more efficient because you're able to, on day 2, jump right back in it and be clear.
It's weird because there's a good balance between laziness and that, right? It's like you could get lazy thinking that way.
Yeah, sure.
You could be like, oh, well, I'm just thinking about it instead of actually doing it. But it is true. Like, definitely. I feel like some of our best moves that we've done have came in like a 5-minute, like, sit down. You know, some of like the best changes that we've made have come in like a 5-minute sit down.
Yeah, and I credit a lot of that to my own personal, the way that I work is I overthink shit. And so it's almost of, if you don't give yourself the chance to overthink it and you just go and you do it in a short period of time, after spending months and months on fucking 3 little icons, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like you get through to that next thing. And it's almost, I relate so much shit back to baseball, and like, I feel like the furthest I got in baseball mentally was the place where I could let my instincts take over when I was playing and not have to think. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I think that's how I think about flow states. You talk a lot about flow states, and that's kind of how I interpret it, is just not getting to a point where you don't have to think about what you're doing and just letting yourself do it and not interfere. It's like, don't get in the way of yourself. Yeah.
Would you what do you think you would change if you jump back 2 years ago? What would you have changed? What's like one move that you think would have either just propelled the product and yourself further, faster, and just better overall?
The first thing I want to say is that I think I keep myself from thinking about that a lot, because I embrace the process.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though it's obvious that we could have been way more efficient, it's almost a sense of pride, I guess, to the fact that eventually we got to where we were. And in my eyes, we got to where we are because of everything that we did before that. If I could have done one thing differently, or for example, if I was starting a new venture,
mm-hmm.
and I were to look back and say, okay, what would I do differently?
Yeah, what would you have learned from this to move forward? That's a better question.
I think in general, I would have stripped down to the basics of what the idea was and what the goal was earlier. Because in my eyes, there was a lot of work sessions where we were working on a function within the app that we didn't even know how it was going to fit into the app yet, or if it was going to be functional or even necessary. And so I think being more direct to what it is on a fundamental level and what you're trying to do would cut through a lot of that excess fat that we had to go through. And also I think it would have made me a little less naive about the situation. And I mean, some of our first thoughts, or my first thoughts, was like, oh yeah, we're going to take over Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we're going to make Facebook and Instagram and Twitter obsolete.
Yeah.
And being kind of caught up on just kind of getting high on our own supply of working on something instead of just taking a second to think it through. So I think I would have, all in all, tried to plan a little bit more, and not just dove right into it and see where it went. But again, I think that's just my personality, and I would have had to go through that at some point of blindly jumping in and working on whatever I thought needed to be worked on at that time to get to a place where I could say, what about the actual shit? I think it even affects this podcast and how we're talking about. I think before I hit record was like, I made a conscious decision not to worry so much about the visual quality,
mm-hmm.
and more about the actual meat and potatoes of what it actually is. What about you?
I think if I could tell myself one thing moving into a new venture, it would probably be that there is space for that venture. And how I describe that is, like, a lot of people, or what I see a lot happening now, is either you go for the big dog, like you were saying with Facebook, you're like, you're going to be the next new thing, or you're going to be the next new this. Or you go the opposite way and you think, oh, there's too many people already in this market. It's too saturated. You know what I mean? It's like people say that it's too saturated and like you can't do something in that market. I think if you go in with the mindset that there is space for whatever you're making, if it's good, it'll find space. You know what I mean? Like people will use it despite there being other options. It's kind of like like I actually really like watching chef like documentaries for some reason. I don't know why, but like I don't really cook that often, but I just like the fact that they have the same ingredients that other chefs have. They have the same everything else, but they're still able to have their own like distinguishing taste.
Yeah.
And if I could tell myself one thing moving forward with anything that I do, it would be that don't worry about there being other restaurants out there. Just worry about if you like what you're making, if you like the taste of your own your food. You know what I mean?
For sure, dude.
Like
we were definitely making something for somebody else for a long time instead of making something for us.
You know, like I feel like a lot of people fall into that trap.
Yeah.
Is you like, I want them to like me. You know what I mean? I want, you know,
Totally.
like, especially when you're trying to go get money from people too, like to invest in something, right? You want these people to like think, oh, well, they're going to think, oh, how is it going to play out with, everybody in this market? Is everybody going to like actually like this product? What are the flaws in it? You kind of think about the investor a little too much. You know what I mean?
For sure.
You think about them a little too much. You think about the consumer a little too much.
Yeah.
Instead of just giving them what you want to give them and seeing whether or not they take it. You know what I mean? Because investors, I feel like, or just anybody investing, is obviously going to think, okay, what is the target market? They've seen so many people come to them for money, I'm sure. Yeah. They've seen so many people with the same types of propositions saying, we could grow at this rate. They got awesome business plans. They got everything that you think that you would need for an investor. But I feel like when you do all those things, you're losing some of your sauce when you do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're losing some of what you make. Like, you don't want the chef to go and pitch proposals to a bunch of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want them to be in the meat of it, getting to what they want to make.
Right.
And I feel like that's with anything. That's with art. That's with fashion. Like, well, fashion's a part of art, but like even this, you know what I mean? Like you're saying, you do something because you want to do it.
Yeah. I kind of like your, not necessarily an analogy, but the comparison you draw to cooking is like, chefs don't go up to customers and say, hey, what are your taste buds? Or like, what do you like to eat?
You know what I mean?
Say,
that would be,
are you allergic to anything? Eat this then. And like, you just get given something to eat because that's what's good, and like, I think when we were raising money for those 3 months, it was like some of the most rapid growth I had in myself. And like, cause I was just, I was forced to get down to the core of myself and like what I felt about like the product itself and about how I wanted to be, and I had to get over any insecurities super quick. And one of the things that I think I came to was, if I give a pitch to anyone, my only responsibility is to convey exactly how I feel about it and what I think. That's it. It's not my job to cater to what they think or where they come from. There are little like I think it's
selling tactics almost.
Right. I think it's smart to know your audience. It's not to say that the pitch is going to be the same to every single person, but my job is to let them know my passion for it. And then if at that point they still decide not to invest, and if I have adequate answers to all their questions, that's all, like, they have that right not to invest. And that's not the person you want investing in your thing.
Yeah.
You want somebody who invests in it, who believes in it like you. And it's okay if you have to sell them on it or with yourself to get there. But I think I stopped trying to give them what they wanted to hear and just give them myself.
Or even if you said shit, what did you just say right now? Even if they're not investing because they believe in the product, but they believe in you. You know what I mean?
I think it's
probably better than anything.
90% plus of the, if not 100% of the people who invested, the investors I got and the investors you got, I think they invested because of us, not necessarily the product.
Unless there was just the couple people that were on the website.
Right. Yeah.
Who actually
the people that
like
we face to face was
because it's you.
Yeah. I 100% think that every single person that I spoke to invested because I sold them and they already knew me rather than I sold them on this idea. Yeah. Like, I believe you in executing this thing that you are passionate about. I could have been pitching fucking litter boxes. You know what I mean? If it was, you're selling yourself at that point.
And I feel like good investors have heard that from people who actually like establish like VCs, and they'll say that you invest in the person.
Right.
And cause if that person comes across a bad idea and they see that it's not working, they're going to go over to a better idea. They're going to drop it. Like a good when you invest in like a good CEO, that person is going to do whatever it takes. And that means changing or staying with it or doing whatever he believes is correct, but he or she, but whatever they believe is correct, But yeah, I definitely feel like I would have told myself that from the, even down to like high school or even any time in school. I would tell myself, hey, I'm not going to try to cater to anybody, because I always felt like I was on the fringe. I was always on the fringe, you know. I was always like, I always felt like I thought differently, and that I liked things that other people didn't like. And I feel like if I told myself at an earlier age, hey, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's all right. You don't need to try to please everybody.
Yep.
You just try to make something that works for you, or do something that works for you.
Mhm.
Like, I probably wouldn't have played baseball as often as I did, or put such a big emphasis on it, because
Interesting.
that, you know, it just took away more from letting my mind do other things,
Mhm.
you know, when I wanted to do other things, you know. Like, baseball to me is a very strict, like, you got to do the same thing week in and week out, just to hope that it plays out in the game, because that you've trained your body to do the right thing, to respond the right way. But like, while I'm there practicing or anything, my mind's going somewhere else and thinking about a whole bunch of different other things. So I would have told myself, hey, if it's not for you, like, you don't have to try to please somebody. You know, you don't have to. There's not one route.
Yeah, I think being confident in yourself and being okay with, you know, being different, or in the things that you believe in, or the ideas that you get, is like, that's the core message of what I received from basically all my favorite artists.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, I feel like I've been working really, really hard at that in the past, like, year specifically, is to just be myself. And then at that point, it's like, you got fucking nothing to lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We were watching the Defiant Ones the other day, and like, I think one of my favorite lines in that whole documentary, which is, it's like, the whole thing's amazing, and I've seen it many times just because I love it. But
yeah, I love
Jimmy Iovine's talking about, he's like, fucking racehorses have blinders on. He's like, and he talks about the importance of not looking at what other people are doing and not worrying about what other people are doing. And you know who else talks about that in a separate documentary is Diddy. Diddy talks about, he's like, I never worry about what other people are doing. And it's like, it's so obvious.
It's super obvious.
It's just so hard.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely obvious, and I wish I knew that. Yeah. I wish I knew that, because I feel like if I knew it, it just makes it so much easier to get to what you want to do. You know, you kind of cut through it. Okay, so like, how many conversations do you think that we had about, well, how are people going to receive that? Like, do they like that function? Are they going to like that function? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, how is it too much like this? Is it too much like that? Trying to think about like what other people like.
Mm-hmm.
And like, to me, now that we're kind of like at this point where, like, I feel like we both think that it should just be what we want. Whether it's the content that's on there, I think we're both in agreement that we want it to be just what we want. You know?
I think reception is important. Like, I think how people receive it is extremely important, because that's part of the execution of it. But I think what you don't have to worry about is the people who wouldn't receive that information and be receptive to it anyways. So like, relating that to like photos that I put up, I don't give a shit if people don't like the subject matter. What I more think about in like the execution is, how is somebody who has an open mind to look, how are they receiving it? Because then that plays into my mind. If I'm trying to convey something specific, or if we're trying to put in a certain function, that's kind of half the battle, is that like, our half is making it and putting it, and their half is using it and receiving it. Mm-hmm. And if there's a flaw in there that causes them to receive it in a way that's detrimental to like the idea or the function or the product in any way, then it kind of comes back on us. It's not just like, oh, fuck them, they don't get it.
Yeah.
But if somebody says like, hey, I'm not a fan of the events that you guys put on the app, and we're like, yeah, that was a conscious decision. We thought about that. That's exactly what we want on the app. And, you know, the people who are more receptive to all types of events don't have that problem. Then it's like, yeah, it's just not for you.
Yeah, no, completely. It's like having a conversation with somebody, you know?
Yeah.
And you don't want them to misconstrue what you say because you said something incorrectly, you know? because you just want your message to get across. And if your message gets across and then afterwards they're just like, I don't like this, then it's like,
You did your job.
yeah, you did your job. I told you what I wanted to tell you. If you don't take it, then you don't take it. Yeah, man, because the way that I see it moving forward is we can make, like, all the content that we can have, it could be just stuff that, you know, has kind of like a cultural thing around it. You know what I mean? It has, like, I love going to Sunday Fun Day. If I had those people using that, I'd like that. You know what I mean? I'd like them using that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more, and I bet you somebody would tell you, you can't have that on there. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to have those types of things on there. You shouldn't promote those things or have events for those things. And it's like, why? Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't understand why. Like, one of the Defiant ones, going back to the Defiant ones, I didn't know how badass Interscope was. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know how, like, they were just like, you know, whatever, man. Fuck it. We're gonna put whatever we want to put on there. We're going to sign anybody who we want to sign.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you don't like it, then you don't like it. You know what I mean? Taking a chance on, like, 9 Inch Nails and being like,
it's so fucking lit too, because they talk about the first band that they signed was that the Suave fool, and then the next band that they signed with them because they signed them. Yeah. And so it's like immediate confirmation that what you being you resonates with other people. Like, if they wouldn't have signed that band and went to go get this other band, Primus, which was the name of the band, who knows if they would have signed because they're like, oh, I don't know, like, we don't really know who you are. Yeah. And, like, we don't know what your intentions are, but it's like, we know who you are now because you do what you want to do, and that's what we want to be a part of. Yeah. Yeah. Badass as fuck.
Yeah, definitely badass. I would also say that the Defiant ones definitely was kind of like an eye-opener to how I can approach certain things, or just approach picking and choosing an event. Like I said, like, if things are on there that other people won't attend, but the people that actually attend those events love using the platform to get to those types of events.
Perfect.
You know what I mean? It works.
Yeah, our job isn't convincing somebody who doesn't like warehouse parties to go to a warehouse party.
Exactly.
Our job is people who like to go to warehouse parties, giving them the information to make it easier to know which ones are going on.
Or people who like to party on Tuesdays. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or Wednesdays. It's not necessarily to please everybody. Yeah. And I think...
And the crazy fucking thing is, there's so many people who are so uncomfortable with what they like. A lot of people base what they like on the fact that other people like it. Yeah. And so some people will start fucking with warehouse parties because, hey, it's okay to fuck with warehouse parties now. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's not, it doesn't always work like that, but sometimes that's just an effect that happens, is once it becomes a little bit more popular and known that, like, it's almost like it gives the people who don't have the confidence to like what they like, it gives them permission at that point.
Yeah, man. Like, how many times have you been to a restaurant that's supposedly super popular and then just like, fuck, why did I even eat there?
I hate hype.
You know what I mean? Why did I eat there? I did that the other day, bro. I went to that fucking restaurant, the rotating one.
Afloat?
No. It's the one that's like in downtown. It's like on top of a hotel, but it's like a rotating.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So I went there thinking like maybe it would be good. And everybody likes it, and I get it.
LA Prime?
No. Okay, so that restaurant's supposed to be really bomb, but I didn't go to that one.
Bona Vista?
Yeah, I went to Bona Vista.
Okay.
I went to that one. And
damn, fool.
Yeah, bro. I guess it was kind of a special day, I guess, but I went to that one and I ate there, and then afterwards I was like, man, I just fell for some hype. I was like, I would have rather gone to Kazunori, getting something that I know is fire. You know what I mean? Or just
took a shot.
You know what I mean? It was just one of those things. But I get what you're saying, is that once something's accepted as being okay, then it's going to be okay with like a lot of other people who wouldn't have accepted it. Yeah. You just need that, hey, it's cool, go ahead. You could do this. You could go to these types of things.
When I first discovered what hipster was when I was in high school. I thought it was the fucking coolest shit in the world, bro. I thought it was so fucking cool,
hipsters?
dude. Yeah, I thought it was so cool. All because the hipsters that I knew, they fucked with what they fucked with. And if you asked them about the fashion or the music that they were listening to, they knew so much about it. They could put you onto it. And they were so them. And like some of like the more douchier side of it was once it becomes known, it's like, fuck that shit, onto the next thing. You know what I mean? Which to me, if you really fuck with what you fuck with, it doesn't matter how many people fuck with it. Even if it becomes mainstream.
You're
you know
like,
what
all
I mean?
right, I still like it.
Yeah. And I still like it, even if it's now on the radio or something like that. But like when I first got put on the hipster movement, I was like, this shit's fucking dope. It's just a bunch of fools being themselves.
That's funny, man. That's funny because you went to a school that was like literally just all being themselves.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like, you know. And if hipsters stood out, like, that's cool.
There's a couple cats in my high school who like I consider like the representatives of the hipster movement. Like if I had questions
Really?
about the hipsters, I would ask them, and like they were kind of pretty front up about like. I feel like if you asked a hipster if they're a hipster, they'd be like, no. You know, but they're like, yeah, like I like the fashion that's I was like, all right, this feels real. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I feel like at that school there was still a lot of people fronting for other people. It's still high school, even though you're a weirdo and like you go for art, like you're still 15 and trying to seek people's approval.
Some people are also just counterculture to be counterculture.
For sure.
You know what I mean? They're like, nobody could like this, like exclusivity. You know what I mean? You're part of like a club type thing.
Yeah, there is kind of like a cool allure. I don't know what it is. I think it's some kind of ego shit that comes along with knowing things that other people don't know. Like there's something that comes along with that that's like, damn, like we're in the know.
Oh yeah,
But,
yeah. I get what you're saying.
I think it's like a you feel, it makes you feel special, you know, so you can get caught up in that.
You have some inside info.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I would have told myself, man. I would just put some blinders on.
Yeah.
Put some blinders on and, you know, go till you fall on your face.
And in the same way, it's like I'm happy that we got to that point this early as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like even
still
though
pretty young.
Yeah. Even though I could have got to that point at 16, it's like I'm glad I feel like I'm getting there at 22.
Yeah, I feel like some people never get that.
Definitely.
That just like, hey, just be yourself. That's why people like artists like Blueface, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna just do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
I might not even rap on beat. I'm gonna just rap like how I want to rap.
Yeah, there is something that comes along with, I don't know, you can sense it's when something's genuine.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the stuff that peeks through and like becomes new, is the stuff that's a little bit different. And it's, yeah, I'm making this music because I fuck with this music, or I'm doing this thing because I fuck with this thing. Like there's nothing more truthful than that. It's just doing it because you like to do it.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm glad you're doing this podcast, man, because
yeah, it's cool. I'm happy too. Like it's not the first time I've tried to do it, but I think it's I don't know, again, it came around when it needed to come around.
Yeah. That does happen too. I would definitely tell myself that too, is that those doors will open up when they're supposed to.
Yeah.
It just happens that way.
Yeah.
There's no other way to say it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that like I learned in an indirect way was just patience. It's like a trust the process type of thing.
Yeah.
When you're ready to reach that door, when you're ready to learn that thing, you will get there. You know what I mean? You have to go through the inefficiencies in order to be able to say, yeah, I think I would do this differently on the other way around, and it would make it a lot more efficient.
Yeah. Also, maybe just like as peace of mind, it would just tell people not to dream super big, because you're just gonna forget about what you got to do right then and there. You know, it's cool to dream. It is. I feel like I still do, but like you gotta kind of tame that back and not let that like drive you, not let that be your work, quote unquote. You know, you got to get to work at some point. Yeah, be like, all right, I'm gonna write this down.
Are you motivated by money?
I'm not motivated by money. I could say that pretty definitively. Money doesn't mean shit to me. Like, that's just how I feel. I'm motivated by stability, though.
For sure.
I'm motivated by stability, but not money. Like, if I just am stable and I have the things that I need, you know, if I have a home, people to share it with, then I don't need much else. I would never give up my ability to create something just to get money.
Yeah. I
would never do that. I'm just personally not motivated by money. It's never been something that motivated me.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe because I don't know. I feel like people that don't have money, like I didn't have money growing up, but people that don't have money fall into the trap of wanting money.
For sure.
Like, yeah, you just want money, you know, and that doesn't help, you know.
I think it really hurts your product, whatever you're making, whatever you're doing. I think it really hurts because it takes away from you just doing it because you like it.
Yeah.
I think I was extremely motivated by money at first. And I think I just recently got to a place within the last maybe 6 months or so where I realized that I'm not actually motivated by money. And so I should stop forcing myself to be motivated by money. It's like the whole time I wasn't, but I thought I was. And so because of that, I was like sticking to this idea of chasing fucking ends. But one of the things I realized is that, I mean, I've made so few dollars on the things that I do. I made so little money on photography. Like we haven't made $1 with Seam. Like I didn't start this podcast to make money because we bought a few pieces of equipment for it, and it's just like, I don't know.
You're in the hole.
Yeah, it's just like I'm doing because I want to do it.
Yeah.
That I realized how little I need to get by financially. It's like I don't need that much money. That it was a freeing realization that I can just continue doing what I like to do, and that money will come if the stuff is good.
Yeah.
Like if the content's good and you have a little bit of wits about you to think about monetizing when monetizing comes around and you're in that position to be able to, it'll come. But you can't monetize something that can't be monetized.
Yeah, I feel that. Like, I think that's why, like, people were so, like, remember when people just didn't like X at first because of the low quality sound?
Sure.
I feel like you were one of them too, right? You're like,
well,
or you just noticed that it was low quality.
I wouldn't say I definitely noticed. 100% one of the first things I noticed about X was low production quality. But to me, it was so a part of the art that it was undeniable. And it's kind of like an Andy Warhol-esque idea. Because Warhol, when he would, in some of his prints, he would purposefully make imperfections into like on the layers. He would make imperfections
on his prints.
Mm-hmm.
Like on some of the famous ones, like the Marilyn Monroe ones and stuff like that.
No, I think on some of his, on like his smaller printmaking works.
Oh, okay.
I think on some of his famous pieces, I can't name one off the top of my head that has those
imperfections,
those intentional imperfections. But the whole idea behind it is that it's part, like that imperfection is part of what the final product is. And to me, with X, is that his low production quality on a song like Look at Me makes the song Look at Me.
Yeah.
And that song Look at Me wouldn't be the same without that production quality. And that production quality on a different song wouldn't do its service.
I feel you. There's a different vibe between KMT and Look at Me. Even though they both have the same cadence and pretty much the same flow, there's just a different vibe to it. And Look at Me definitely just goes way harder.
Yeah, I mean, off of the first beat drop, like your speakers are blown out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's a fucking song where your speakers should be getting blown out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I definitely noticed low production quality off the jump. But I wasn't necessarily a fan of his music at first. I think just because I wasn't ready to like accept it. It took me a little bit. I don't think I actually became a fan of X until 17.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard 17. I was like, this shit's fucking amazing. This shit's crazy.
I feel you. I was definitely looking forward to the album when it came out. I remember being like, damn, this is going to be like, I remember looking forward to it for sure. And I think that like speaks a lot to me not like desiring money, because I always knew that good shit didn't need a lot of money. It's like somebody who's very fashionable who just goes to thrift stores.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Like people have style that don't need to spend a shit ton of money at a department store.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I always knew that was just something that's innate, that you're going to come out with something good whether or not you have money. Yeah. It's just if you could put it out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I remember when 17 came out, I remember thinking like, damn, like this is going to be a fucking album. I did not know it was going the way that it was going. I did not know that it was going to be as like indie rock, kind of like Nirvana sound,
it's
like
a little emo too.
Little emo. No idea that it was going to be like that.
I don't even know if I was aware of the drop. I might have you might have put me onto it actually. I'm not sure. Like I definitely wasn't anticipating the album. But within the first week I was aware of it and listening to it and like already on my fucking 20th listen.
You're like, holy shit.
Yeah,
man,
crazy.
This is good.
Crazy.
Yeah, man. If you're motivated by money, you're just not going to put out that type of music.
For sure.
I mean, you might put out some Drake music.
I don't think it's impossible to make good things with the intention. If you have the intention of making money, I think it's just harder to make things that are genuine. That's all. And I think, at least for me, and I feel pretty confident to say that for you too, it's that the good shit comes from being genuine.
Yeah, man. Like you could cook something for what, $5 and make a gas.
The cooking like show that I've dreamt up in my head is like $2 gas. It's like I can make. Dude, I live off for groceries about $15 a week for groceries.
$15 a week. Yeah. I can see that.
It's really easy, especially one person. Like, it's.
Do you do any meats?
Yeah.
What do you like?
Chicken breast.
Chicken breast, right?
You get chicken breast on sale.
Yeah.
It's fucking. You can get like 6 fillets, and then if you buy it towards the end of the sale date, it's always buy one get one free at Ralph's. So I get fucking 24 fillets for like $5.50, and I just freeze them. And then veggies are cheap as shit.
Yeah.
Buy some tortillas, buy some rice, buy some pasta. It's like
you're good.
Good to go. Butter, cheese. That's it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good for sure.
But on that point of like money doesn't make good artwork, or like money doesn't improve the product, I think it's kind of like
it doesn't improve you. I'll go that far as saying it doesn't just you.
Sure.
As a person, it doesn't improve you.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like I'm not sure actually. I mean, I've seen some studies about like the decreasing exponential like happiness value of money. It's like getting to 60,000 brings you a spike in happiness, and then getting to 95,000 brings you a spike, and then it kind of tails off from there because it's almost like you have what you need at that point. But when it comes to, I'll speak like specifically for photography. Like I know a lot, like Marcus Hyde, he's Kim K's photographer. He he did a bunch of stuff for Ariana Grande. He does Kim K. Like he's up there. He's like one of like the biggest pop culture fashion photographers. Like he's very active with his followers and community. He always says shoot on your phone. He's like, shoot on your fucking phone. Like, what are you gonna spend $2,000 on a camera, like on a camera for? Like, become a good photographer on your phone first, and then like invest in the equipment.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing when I was thinking about like, okay, I want to make content. Like, let me emphasize making the content and not buying $500 mics. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Having good content, getting good.
Let me film this with my iPhone instead of buying another camera. You know what I mean? It's
because you don't need to.
It's gonna be good if it's good. Like, equipment will only get you so far.
Yeah, man. not motivated by money. I could say definitively. I feel like people can't say that.
Yeah.
You know, I never thought I would improve myself either. Like, I feel like some dudes want to get money because they want to get girls.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They're like, I just want to get rich so I could have, you know, this fire ass girl. And you're like, man, she's gonna be fucking some dude like Blueface from the block. Like, like you don't need that. You don't need any of that. You don't need to be chasing that.
Yeah.
Like, if you're meant to be rich, you're gonna be rich.
Yeah, and you're gonna find a dope chick. If you're gonna find a dope chick, you're not gonna find a dope chick because you got ins.
Yeah, it's just not how it works.
If you get a chick because of the ins, it's like that's not the chick you want to be with.
Not at all. I think I also would have like. I feel like your own personal relationships definitely contribute a lot to your productivity too. Like, I would definitely focus on that. Like, if I was telling somebody else too, I'd be like, is everything else in your life putting you in a position to just think like properly?
Just
you
be
know,
clear.
You know what I mean? Exactly. Like, you're not going to be clear if you're arguing with your girlfriend every single day. You know what I mean? Or you don't like your financial situation. You're just not going to be thinking clearly at all. Your relationships definitely.
I think it's hugely important because I think I was definitely on the extreme. I've noticed that theme in my life is that I go from one extreme to the other. It's like I feel like I'm doing something wrong and then I overcompensate by going to the complete other extreme.
That's interesting.
I think at one point I was completely like self-centered about what I needed to do, and so I wasn't worried about my friendships or relationships or like my family or anything like that. I was just completely focused internally, and then I realized that like that's just not the way to do it. Like it's even for my goal, what I thought the right direction to go was selfishly, it's like that's not even the right way to do it, because it causes the shit we're talking about of being cloudy. It's like, if I'm unstable, then I'm not gonna be on point when I go to sit down and fucking and do my work. But I think the relationship thing is like I'm at a completely different point of just like what I want and what I want to commit. It's like I haven't even had really the desire to try to pursue a relationship at this point in my life. I'm not really sure why that is. It's just,
I mean, I would definitely not tell somebody to pursue a relationship if they don't want to pursue a relationship. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely not something you should do, but I feel like just not even just relationships with women or like just like not even like romance, just like friends.
Yeah.
You know?
Super important.
Just like friends, the your quote unquote like mentors, like people that you actually listen
and
to.
Your family.
Yeah, exactly. Like people that you get advice from. You know what I mean? Like, if that is not in line with what you want to do, then it's not going to benefit
just
you.
making it more difficult.
Because you got to listen to their voices while you're still trying to you still have doubts in your own head. It's not going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would definitely focus on that too. Like, I got to make sure that I'm just in a position where I could think clearly. Just think clearly and get good stuff out.
Yeah.
Unless, I'm trying to put out some chaotic stuff, and then maybe I'll do some Joker shit, and
maybe isolation at that point is like
needed.
Inform your people like, hey, I'm gonna be on my own and see what comes out for this time frame. Every time I fell into a funk, or like anytime I wouldn't say, I don't know if I hesitate to say the word depression because like I don't want to downplay other people who do feel and are depressed, but anytime I fell into any kind of funk and to where it's actually hindered my work, the thing that snaps me out of it is connection with my friends. That's always the thing. And so if anytime I notice myself like getting into a place of being mentally cloudy, I'm like, I think it's time to kick it with the homies. Like I haven't been hanging out with the homies recently. It's like I gotta go fucking have dinner with my parents. Gotta go kick with my brother. I gotta make some more time for my friends.
You just gotta breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that, man. I feel that for sure. I don't think enough people talk about the funk that comes along with it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're pursuing something. That's something, it just takes it's a mental tax. You feel all that pressure.
Yeah.
You feel all that, like, is this going to work out? all that just comes into your head, and it's hard to not think about those things. You know what I mean? So I feel like people don't talk about the funk a lot. There's like this very big misconception that like, oh, these people are just great. You know, like
There's
Jeff,
also-
Jeff Bezos is just great all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure. Totally.
Like Steve Jobs, he's just great all the time.
Always on his A game
Yeah,
every
he's-
second of the day.
Every second of the day, he was on his A game, and it's like, doubt it.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
They're not human at that point. You know,
Yeah.
people don't talk about the funk. They don't talk about it. Getting out of depression.
I think people underestimate, at least I underestimated going into it from like things that I saw, was the amount of time it takes. And it's not even just time spent working, it's time spent thinking about it, and it's time spent being kept up because you can't go to sleep because you're thinking about it even though you're exhausted. And then the time it takes to plans, and the time it takes fixing shit that didn't work. I think the overall, my expectation going in to try to pursue something and making something was, I underestimated the time everything would take, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Big one.
Yeah. Even
Time flies in certain situations, but when you're like working on something, it could feel like forever. It could feel like it just forever. It's taking you. You just count the days that it's taking you. You know what I mean? It's like,
and almost in our situation, it's like one of if you could go as far to say luxuries is time. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to answer to anyone. You know what I mean? The only thing we're fighting is timing on putting it out, right?
Mhm.
Like, there is a right place and a right time for something to come out. But it's not like we have somebody standing on our shoulder. Like, we're not like an artist signed to a label who has to turn in an album by a certain day. You know what I mean?
that would.
And I think there's a balance that comes with having a deadline on something. I think it's also healthy and like a good practice to say like, I'm going to finish this task by this time, because then you don't have time to second guess yourself. And there's when the clock hits a certain time, it's done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know when to stop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you don't work on it anymore. It's done.
I think that's one of the hardest things, like as an artist, is determining when something's done.
Oh yeah, I hear that all the time. All the time. At least when it comes to people that put things out.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, my girl, she talks about that all the time because she paints.
Yeah.
And she's just like, that was the last thing we said. She told me when we went to art night,
Mm-hmm.
there was a painting there and it had like sketches of horses still in it, but like it was painted, you know, like it looked like a nice painting, but there was sketches. You could see pencil in it. And she was like, how did she know when it was done? How did the artist know when it was done? You know? And I gave my humble opinion and thought, well, maybe like, it seems like it's just a spurt of energy. And then afterwards they're like, well, this doesn't feel authentic anymore. So that's it. You know what I mean? Like, it's out there.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they try to go back and sketch out and finish out something at the bottom because there was space there. But then after, they're like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird, man. It's weird. I haven't tried to put something out like that besides this, but it seems like it's super hard to determine whether or not something's done.
I haven't figured that shit out yet. I mean, in high school, I could spend 6 weeks working on one piece. It doesn't fucking matter. I'm still working on it in the classroom before class the day it's due.
Really?
I never
Just
figured
touching it up.
Yep. I never figured out how to finish something.
Hmm.
And there's definitely such a thing as overworking something.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like you can overcook something for sure. It's like
yeah, exactly.
there's a way to fuck something up that's done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I setting a time to say it's done is always good. That's what I felt like I was lacking in my own personal life. That's why I was like, man, all right, I am going to get this out by this time, and that's the time that I've set to it. So I'm going to hit the road and try to figure out how to get this done. You know what I mean? If it means me doing a lot more than what I'm doing now, then fine. But I'm going to get it done. I don't want to wait any longer. Like, but when you don't have anybody looking over you and telling you, hey, you got to turn it in at this time,
Yeah.
then it's definitely harder.
That is a tough balance. Like, I don't know, me myself, I'm extremely hard on myself about things, but you know, holding yourself accountable to all things, it's like that's a skill that has to be learned too. I'm down to keep going, but I gotta take a piss.
Yeah. I probably gotta head out.
You want to
soon.
wrap it up, or do you want to keep going?
Yeah. No, I'm good.
Okay, for sure.
I'm good.
All right, that was the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to see some of the bonus features for the episode, music on the audio version, or some of our first sketches of the app, you can check that stuff out on donaldfrias.com under the Gascast. If you want more information about Seam, the app, you can check that out at seamla.com. That's SEAMLA.com. On there, you'll find a commercial that we filmed about a year ago, a little bit more, year and a few months. There's a commercial that we filmed for it. That was the video that was the first introduction when we on our campaign page when we were raising funds, and our team, our developers, information about me, Adrian, and then our developer Estefania, who's an amazing young lady. And then at the very bottom, there's a RSVP form. If you like it, you're interested, and you want some more info, and you want to sign up, you can put in your information at the RSVP form, your name, email, Instagram, and then when there's any future developments, new releases, anything that we want to share with the people that have already signed up, you'll get an email from us. And when it's out, you'll be one of the first people to know. That's all, again, on seamla.com. Follow me on Instagram if you want to see some of my photos. Call me Donnie and _call me Donnie on Twitter. Adrian doesn't have social media, so don't have anything to plug for him except Seam again. So go check us out at seamla.com. That's everything. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was episode 1 of the Gascast, and I'll see you on the next one.